One of the best ways to organize and sync all your footage is to enable timecode into your workflow. Setting up each device to use timecode is fairly easy. Getting them all to use the same timecode reference is a little more difficult. In this video, I'm going to show you how I get timecode set up and synchronized between my camera, external monitor, and audio recorder without using any external timecode devices. Setting up most modern mirrorless cameras to use timecode is fairly straightforward. For my Sony, I go to the shooting menu, scroll down to the timecode user bit section, and set preferences. For my Panasonic, I go to the motion picture menu and scroll down to the timecode section. For both cameras, I use free run and I make sure HDMI timecode output is set to on. Having a camera set up for timecode is nice, but for a non-commercial shooter, there aren't a lot of good reasons to set it up. When you add an audio recorder and have your camera and audio recorder use a common source for timecode, you start to see the benefits of timecode. In the video linked above, I go over the benefits of using timecode to sync video and audio. In this video, I'll show you how I physically connect my devices so that timecode is easily passed from one device to another. Well, sort of. More on that later. My current setup for YouTube includes a Sony a7S III, an Atomos NINJAV, and a sound device MixPre 6. My second camera is the GH5, and I also have several monitors I sometimes use. I record video into the a7S III and the audio into the MixPre. I don't record video to the Ninja. I only use it as an external monitor. My original plan was to use my camera as my timecode source and feed it via HDMI to both the NINJAV and the MixPre. The NINJAV and MixPre can accept timecode via HDMI, and the NINJAV has HDMI in and out. I thought I could run an HDMI cable from the camera to the NINJAV, then run a cable from the NINJAV to the MixPre. Easy, right? Yes, it's very easy. There's only one problem. It doesn't work. Well, technically it does work, meaning you can get timecode to work on all devices. You just can't get it to work consistently. Let me show you what I mean. This is how I set up timecode on all my devices. I've got a Sony a7S III that generates timecode and embeds it in the HDMI output. An HDMI cable is connected to the NINJAV input where it displays video and passes the video with embedded timecode through the HDMI output. An HDMI cable is connected from the HDMI output of the Ninja to the HDMI input of the MixPre 6 where it is able to read the timecode from the Sony. At this point, all devices are synchronized to camera timecode. I should be able to hit record and the camera will record, the Ninja will record, and the MixPre will record, and they will all be synchronized to the same timecode. So let's see what happens. I hit record on the Sony, it starts recording. The Ninja starts recording, and the MixPre starts recording. But watch closely. See how the MixPre keeps stopping and restarting the recordings? Every time it restarts recording, it generates a new audio file. This makes all the audio files unusable due to the breaks in the recording. Having it work inconsistently is worse than having it not work at all. Anytime you can't trust your gear, you have a real problem. I tried a lot of things to fix the issue. First, I replaced all the HDMI cables. Then I made sure I was on the latest firmware on all devices. Finally, I tried changing settings on all the devices to try and fix the issue, but nothing worked. As a last resort, I searched YouTube and found a video from Judd that had a solution to my problem. A link to that video is in the description below. The workaround solution wasn't perfect, but for my specific situation, it worked. The solution was to use an HDMI splitter to route timecode and recording triggers from the camera to both the NINJAV and the MixPre. I had tried this in the past with several other HDMI splitters, but could never get any of them to work. After some testing, the HDMI splitter recommended in Curtis's video worked for most things I needed it to do. It allowed me to get timecode from my camera to the MixPre and also allowed me to get video to the Ninja. It also allowed the camera to trigger the MixPre to record, and it did not drop timecode and cause the audio resets like it did while connected through the NINJAV. The splitter I'm using allows you to use devices with multiple resolutions by using its internal scaler. I didn't need that functionality and found that I got the best results when the switch was set to the copy position. I made a chart showing the various ways of connecting all the devices. For the switch to work completely, it would have to pass timecode to the MixPre and Ninja while also passing the recording trigger to both devices. No matter what I tried, I could not get it to do all of those functions. After a lot of trial and error, I was finally able to get timecode working to the MixPre, video to the NINJAV, and record trigger to work on the MixPre. It would have been nice to have timecode and recording trigger to work on the Ninja, but it wasn't a deal breaker. Allowing me to have timecode synced up between the camera and the MixPre was great, and having recording trigger working was also a plus as it prevented me from forgetting to push record on the MixPre, which I have done several times. Now that I've figured out how to physically connect everything and get it to work, I configured timecode on all devices. Earlier in the video, I showed how to set up timecode on my cameras. The setup for the MixPre was fairly simple as well. One interesting thing about the MixPre is it has two different timecode modes. The first mode works for Sony, Panasonic, Nikon, and Canon cameras. The second mode is specifically for Fuji cameras. For my GH5, setting the MixPre to the first mode immediately started up timecode on the MixPre. When I went to setting up the A7S III with the MixPre, I thought I could just move the HDMI cable from the GH5 to the A7S III and it would work. Well, it didn't. After more testing, I found that the MixPre would only accept timecode from the A7S III when I had the timecode trigger set to Fujifilm. I don't know if this is normal, and since I don't have another A7S III or MixPre, I can't do any additional testing. If anyone has figured out how to set up the MixPre to the A7S III using the mode that says it works with Sony, please let me know in the comments. Well, that's how I hook up my camera, external monitor, and audio recorder together and get timecode. If you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful and encourages you to set up your camera and other devices with timecode. It isn't just for big productions or professional setups. With most modern camera gear, anyone can add timecode to your setup and workflow. Thanks, and I will see you in the next video.